Welcome to another edition of Cheers to Careers. I'm Steve Ridinghouse, the Career Outreach Coordinator at the School of Journalism and Mass Communications at KU.
Hello and welcome to a special episode of Cheers to Careers. This is our number 100. It's hard to believe. We started in March of 2021 and now we've reached 100. Our special guest today is Liz Hawk. She's the Senior Partner and Global Head of Influencer Relations at FleishmanHillard. Welcome, Liz.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
I know you have a busy schedule. You got your master's degree from KU in Integrated Marketing Communications.
Yes, I did.
And you've had various roles with FleishmanHillard in 20 plus years. Can you kind of provide a track of like what you've done during that time, if you remember?
I can. I do recall the journey over those 20 plus years, which seems strange because I am only, 25 years old, Steve. But one of the things that I like to tell people about working at an agency like FleishmanHillard for so long is I have had a lot of jobs in that amount of time. And I started on our healthcare team. And as someone who majored in communications as an undergrad and specifically had an emphasis in television, I never thought that I would start my career in healthcare. But that was where the opportunity took me, and I immediately started working in influence. Okay. And I think that that's really important because in my story, because influence, I think even though the position that I hold now as head of influencer relations and kind of where we think about influencer marketing and who an influencer is today is very specific. I think that public relations has always been about influencing audiences. Right. And so I started working with patient advocates, talking to other newly diagnosed patients about their experiences and trying to help them understand what questions to ask their doctors to ultimately get them to the right treatment options. That then took me on to eventually my next role within the agency, completely changing things up and moving into the brand marketing sector. And I started working with clients like Hallmark and Hellsberg Diamonds and other clients who were very much focused on targeting women 25 to 54 and very focused on kind of how they would buy their TV. At that time, we realized, though, that we were doing a lot of targeting of the mom sector within that broad women segment. At the time, Fleischman had practice groups that were dedicated to different audience segments. Like we had practices focused on the boomer audience and LGBT, and we had a practice dedicated to the Hispanic consumer segment. And I just started doing a lot of research on the side and realized that we were missing a big opportunity with moms as a consumer segment, and wrote a business case and kind of pitched it internally. And at the beginning of 2009, had the opportunity to launch our Marketing to Moms practice for the firm. All of the work that we were doing for the practice was very focused on the early stage of the blogosphere, where moms were really driving what was happening there. Early stage of what we know now as social influencer relations. And that then kind of like catapulted what we know now with, the social platforms and the opportunity to use those spaces to ultimately influence audiences, whether that influence is sponsored or earned or showing up in owned spaces, et cetera.
So when you took on these new roles, did management reach out to you and say, hey, Liz, we think you're ready for a change? Or was this something you took the initiative like to keep taking on new challenges?
Both
Okay.
And I think that in an agency like ours, we are very entrepreneurial. I think that even with the size that FleishmanHillard is and within, being owned by a holding company like Omnicom, one of the things that I think is really special about FleishmanHillard is the entrepreneurial nature of leadership to really find talent at any level who has a great idea and to say, show us how it can work. Okay. And at the same time, to have a leadership team who says, hey, we have this thing happening over here and we think that you might be a good fit to do this thing. So I think that it is kind of all of those things working together to keep someone like myself at a place so long where you have the opportunity to just kind of be open to where the journey might take you and to just always be raising your hand, always be curious about what might exist around the corner, to say, hey, maybe there's something there that could be a good fit for me. Or maybe there's something there that the people on my team haven't noticed yet that I could bring to them to say, hey guys, maybe this could be something that could add value to our team, to our office, to our client, to the firm.
And I know you have global in your title. I assume there's some travel involved.
There is
Global
some travel involved.
Do you like that part of the job?
I love to travel, yes. Well, there is travel involved, but also, thanks to COVID and thanks to the ways that we work today as a global network, and the way that COVID and all of that really kind of created a smaller footprint. We work with teams that, people who live everywhere. Every day we work with people who literally sit everywhere. And so sometimes that, requires travel, and a lot of times it doesn't. I have the pleasure and the privilege of getting to work with people, even people who report to me, who live in other cities. My boss lives in New York, actually, and my clients are all over the world. So I have the opportunity to travel to visit them, and I also have the opportunity to travel a lot for activations and events and pop-ups and things that we construct for our clients in order to have a reason to invite influencers into those spaces to capture the attention of our clients' audiences. And also of the media and spaces where we can generate content and generate stories from those spaces to send out into the world that ultimately will deliver a business or a brand impact for the client.
And I know you shared some great photos. I admit, I think I knew half of those photos. Duck Dynasty, I recognize. Julian Huff, Jewel. So is it your responsibility to reach out to them, or their people to partner with the client, or how does that process work?
So when we think about who has influence to our client's audience, the key there is the audience. We think about who is the audience influenced by. It's not going to be the same client to client, brand to brand. We start with looking at a lot of data. We use a lot of tools, quantitative data that we pull out of those tools to understand not just who is following this influencer. We never define influence by reach alone, but by truly who has the most authenticity with that particular audience. Does the influencer have, a certain content performance that would be acceptable for us? We want to make sure that who's following them are truly interacting with them. We want to make sure that the influencers that we choose to represent our clients are safe reputationally to, hold their brand. We also are not just looking at quantitative data, but we look at the audience and their interests. And we want to make sure that it's not just using the influencer as a mouthpiece for the message that the client wants to get out, but that there is a way in which the influencer can tell a story around those messages. So they're not just generating ads. They're creating, they're kind of wrapping the message in something that creates more interest, that will hold the attention of the audience a little bit more. That is more of the influencer relations aspect of the work that we do, as opposed to the influencer marketing aspect. And so we use a lot of tools and data to uncover not just those quantitative pieces, but even understanding what are the interests and the passions and what the audience cares about, and we align that to who is following the influencer and what those followers also are interested in and care about. We then create the matches between those, and that's how we ultimately uncover who is the best fit for this particular brand, for this particular campaign, the objective that we have for that campaign, and what we want the influencer to do for them. this is kind of a roundabout way of saying it's always audience first.
Right.
It's always fueled by a lot of data as well as human analysis of that data. And it is never defined by reach alone, but by fit.
Okay. And how big is your influencer team that you work with at Fleshman?
The team that I lead, so the practice group that I lead, is about 85 people who I consider are subject matter experts in influencer relations for the firm.
Okay. And I know you got your master's from KU. Is it safe to say you got that kind of mid-career, or it wasn't right after you got your undergrad? I guess what I want to ask is, I know when I advise students, some want to get that master's right out of undergrad, some wait, till their early 30s, some wait mid-career. What went into your thinking? Like, when did you know the time was right to kind of, I need to get my IMC from KU?
Yes. Well, I am someone who loves to be a student in general. I'm just a lifelong learner. I am someone who is very curious about what is coming next. And so I always knew that I wanted to get a master's degree. That desire kind of always existed. In terms of the timing, I think that, working in an agency and working with clients who represent, the disciplines of PR in some cases, marketing in other cases, paid media in other cases, social media in others, you need to understand their vernacular, what is most important to them, what are their KPIs, how are they thinking about the business challenge on the table from where they are each approaching it. And I wanted to as someone who majored in comms as an undergrad, I wanted to have more of that understanding of the entire spectrum of marketing communications so that I had a deeper way to interact with all of those types of clients across that full spectrum. And so when I started the program, I had a few years of experience, which I think was very helpful in having the conversation in class with my peers, which I really loved. The one hiccup was when I started my first class, first semester, I also realized that I was expecting my first child.
Oh, wow. Tommy, okay.
So there was a little bit of, okay, so we're going to be doing all of this at the same time. So I did do the 5-year plan.
Okay.
Because, we just needed to do the full-time job. I actually ended up having 2 children over the course of
5 years. Okay.
5 years, and the master's degree at night. But
wasn't online then.
It was not online.
Okay.
No. We drove from the office downtown to the campus. Okay. But I loved doing that because I loved being in person with my classmates and professors. But I am here to say that it is doable. And I recommend it.
And you mentioned, having the 2 children in those 5 years, and you have a 3rd child, right?
Yes, I do.
How is the work-life balance? I know in a position like yours, you probably pulled a lot of different directions. Have you kind of found that ability to find that balance? I know it kind of varies job to job and the further you are in your career.
Well, I will say that there is no such thing as balance.
No balance.
But what I mean by that is, I think that the word balance kind of creates this idea that there is true, that things are truly equally balanced. Okay. And I think that we need to consider that there are days in which there is complete overwhelm, and then there are days when there is not. And so we think about balance in terms of the bigger picture, and you just need to make sure that you feel ultimately when you look at the forest for the trees, that you feel that sense of balance overall, as opposed to thinking, do I in this moment feel like my home life and my work life are equally weighted? Because the answer to that will always be no.
Yep, I know that can be a challenge. And I know you've really stayed connected to KU. I know you're on the William Allen White kind of board of trustees and also on the IMC advisory board. Why is it so important to you to kind of stay connected to the journalism school here at KU?
Well, I mentioned that I am someone who is always curious about what's coming next. I'm a lifelong learner. I am personally passionate about what is next and who is next. And, I think that it's really important to benefit where the profession and where the industry is headed. The future of the industry is who is coming in to lead it next.
Right.
And there is so much change happening all the time in our space. When I think about myself as that entry-level new talent, when we were blast faxing news releases to the newsroom, and when I think about how we were editing, like splicing, the reels back in the day. I mean, there's something about how you do the work, the skill set, and the doing, and then there is the thinking and the understanding and the where is it going and the application of that. And I guess all that to be said, the reason that I want to stay engaged in education and in where talent is coming from and where talent is headed is because I think that the profession is always changing, and if I could have anything to do with helping the people who are going to be coming in and changing with it and ultimately driving where the change is headed, not in the doing, but in the how we think about it and how we use our brains to steer that change, that is really exciting to me. And I think that that is something that I would love to be a part of.
I know you mentioned curiosity a few times, and I know in your undergrad at SMU, I think you were involved in a 2-year independent study on effects of advertising on children. Mm-hmm. Can you kind of give a quick summary about what that study was about? I mean, that sounds fascinating for an undergrad to kind of take on that project.
Mm-hmm. This was a project that a professor actually, asked if I would get involved in kind of taking this on, and I'm not someone that says no. So I actually, I was really down to do research. And I think just kind of like understanding more of what is happening in the comms landscape beyond traditional journalism. And so just the opportunity to kind of dive more into advertising as kind of in parallel to, I was majoring also in TV, working for Fox 4 in Dallas at the time. And so this was just kind of like supplemental to that. But yeah, I think, what I ultimately discovered in doing this research over the course of a couple of years is the commercials that, were playing during children's television after school were actually perpetuating gender and racial stereotypes. And so, every hypothesis that we went into the study with, played out exactly as we thought it would. When I think back to how we executed the research now, though, the way that we had to do everything so manually with recording every children's show for a certain block of time every weekday for a period of time, and then going back and watching and then manually, coding what was happening in each one of the opportunity that we could do that research again with the technology that we have now is insane to think about. But yeah. No,
that sounds fascinating. So one last question before we move on to Fast Five. Always like to close. Do you have any advice to soon-to-be graduates that want to do PR, influence marketing? What advice do you have for them? for them just getting started?
Yeah, well, I guess a few things. Number one, hopefully this is a theme of what I've been talking about this whole conversation, but this notion of always being curious and
Right.
knowing that you are a full-time student now, but please continue to be a student always going forward, and to think of yourself as a student of the profession, of the industry, never stop researching. Research might look like reading the trades every day, following the industry news, following certain thought leaders, and making sure that you're staying up to date on where they believe things are headed. Have an opinion about that. Be connected and always be curious, and have your why on what is happening. Ask yourself, why is that happening? And always be asking that question. Right. And then I think the second thing is always raise your hand to do more, to attend that thing, to go to that conference or that networking event, or take on that extra research project, because you never know the opportunity that will just organically present itself to you as a result of just saying yes or raising your hand. And, I think for me, one of the reasons why I have had such a long career at FleishmanHillard is because I have never decided myself that my next 5 years look like this, or my next 10 years look like this. I have just I think always been open to what are the needs of the business, what are the needs of our clients, and how can I help be part of solving for those needs, or solving for what the challenges are that are right in front of us, and then always do the next best thing. Sometimes I think that people get a little bit mired down in these ideas that you need to have kind of like your projection of, your 5-year plan or your 10-year plan. And I think that that can be a little bit like inadvertently self-limiting. Because for me, I think that I've had so many different jobs over the course of almost 24 years in the same agency that I never would have anticipated if I had come into this position at any time in those 24 years and decided what those next 5 or 10 years were ever going to look like. So I think just that openness is kind of part of it.
Great advice. I'll make sure to share that with students. One last thing before we move on to Fast Five. This is our 100th episode. You are, I think, our 45th in-studio guest. We've been to 25 states. Some of us have zoomed in virtually. 3 countries, of course, U.S., England, and Germany. So we've had quite the reach. So Fast Five. Maybe you do this already, but if you had a walk-up song every day you entered your office, what would it be? Do you have a go-to walk-up song that gets you motivated, or a type of song?
Oh gosh, I have so many. It's really hard to narrow down. Oh gosh. I mean, it really depends on the mood that I come into the office with every day, which can be quite varied. But I would say I might have to go to something off of Pearl Jam's 10.
Pearl Jam, okay. I know you've connected with some well-known influencers. Has there ever been that one influencer where you were in awe of? Like, wow, I can't believe I'm standing next to this person.
Well, in the moment, I would have to say Travis Kelce was a fun one, and very timely, because I worked with Travis Kelce on a campaign about diamonds a few years before he now has been in the news about diamonds.
Well, I saw that photo. So that wasn't the ring that he was picking.
Not the ring.
I thought, wow, if you were there for that, that's impressive.
No.
Can you recall your favorite master's course or topic? Was there something that the IMC program that really resonated with you?
So many. One of the things that's funny about when I was going through that program that's when I first learned about what is YouTube. I first heard about YouTube
In the class?
at
Okay.
a night class at the KU Edwards campus. So I will never forget that. But yeah, probably Tim Bankston's class stands out to me because I just loved like brainstorming what ifs and coming up with like crazy product and service ideas.
Is there a current PR crisis case study, or maybe a crisis case study from years ago that you thought, as a PR professional, I can handle this a lot better? Is there one that you kind of look back on as like, wow, I wish I could have had control of that communication plan? Or
Yes, from an influencer perspective, you know, there are times when I have seen brands make decisions about influencers that they want to work with because of, you know, maybe reasons about diversity, and they are making decisions that I believe are a bit performative.
Okay.
That they think that they will get some equity to the brand because of that decision, that then backfires.
Doesn't always work. Okay.
And yes, I have a lot of thoughts about being audience first and the use of, you know, quantitative and qualitative data and making those decisions differently.
Okay. And a last fast five. So when Netflix releases the Liz Hawks story, which actress plays Liz Hawks? Do you have an actress lined up ready to play you in the Liz Hawks story?
I don't.
Okay. Or you can play yourself. I mean,
I have heard that Julianne Moore might be
Okay.
a good actress to play me. So let's go with that one.
all right. Hey, well, thanks for spending time with us. I know I have a podcast fan that wanted to show up for our 100th episode. Come on in. Say hi to our
Wow.
audience.
This is, what a fan. What a fan.
Baby Jay, appreciate you being here.
100 episodes. What a thrill to be on the 100th episode.
Yeah, like I said, when we started this in 2021, you might know Haley Harrison Lee. Do you know Haley? She used to be a KMC anchor, and when I pitched the idea, she was totally on board. I didn't know if she would buy into it. She goes, hey, I think it's a great idea. This was like the height of COVID. I'm sitting here. She's sitting over there because we were split up by like a shield. I don't know if you remember what was going on in March 2021, but COVID, height of COVID. So yeah, she stuck with me, and yeah, it's hard to believe we're up to 100 episodes. And I know we have a little bit of cake to celebrate with our famous Cheers to Careers logo. I want to give Cameron Robinson, she was a former student producer, and she's the one who created this logo. And she added a lot to the experience. And then Ren's doing a great job as a student producer now, makes it look great. And Cal's been here since day one, so I've had a great team to help support. And always like to close with a little cheers.
Cheers.
So Liz, thanks for being here for 100. Thank you.